Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into something pretty interesting today. I read this piece, and it kind of got me thinking about Hollywood, and how they portray institutions like the FBI in movies.
Oh, yeah.
It makes this argument that things might be shifting, like how the FBI is shown on the big screen. Like, they used to be these big heroes, right? Busting criminals, saving the day.
Right, right.
But now it's kind of more complex. They've had some controversies. Their image isn't as squeaky clean. So this piece asks, are we going to see them go back to being the bad guys in movies? Like back in the day, it was pretty common.
That is interesting. What kind of piece is this? Like, where'd you see it?
Oh, it was an opinion piece, one of those thought-provoking ones.
Yeah.
And they connected this whole FBI thing to, like, bigger changes happening in Hollywood.
What do you mean?
Well, like, remember all these blockbuster films we used to have?
Yeah.
The ones everyone just had to see? They're saying those are kind of fading away.
Oh, yeah. Those were the days. I remember waiting in line forever to see, like, the new Star Wars or whatever. But yeah, I guess you don't see that as much anymore.
Exactly. In this piece, it blames this thing called groupthink.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like a certain set of ideas and values have become so dominant in Hollywood that it's like stifling creativity.
I see. So everything's getting a bit too predictable, too safe, maybe.
Right. And they say this groupthink affects everything, like how characters are written, even the acting, less depth, They call them polished talking heads.
Polished talking heads, huh? That's a good one.
Right. It's like they look the part, but there's no real substance underneath.
I get it. Like, they're saying those old films, they had characters that were more, I don't know, complex, morally ambiguous. Like, you couldn't just label them as good or bad.
Exactly. Think about Silence of the Lambs. Hannibal Lecter. Creepy as hell, but also, like, fascinating. You couldn't just pin him down. But they're saying that kind of character, that kind of depth is kind of disappearing.
Yeah, it's true. You don't really see those morally gray characters as much anymore.
And they use the FBI as like the perfect example of this shift. Remember, like Enemy of the State, Will Smith running from the FBI. They were basically Big Brother watching everything.
Yeah, totally. I remember that one. They were like this shadowy force working against the good guy.
And there were others too, right? Like 3 Days of the Condor or The Conversation. All those movies where the FBI was tapping phones, spying on people. It tapped into this whole fear of government overreach,
For sure. Back then, the FBI was often seen as a threat to individual liberty, an institution with too much power that could easily be abused.
It's crazy how much that's changed, though. Like the author points out, their image has gotten way softer. They went from being the bad guys to, like, almost heroic.
Yeah. They became more aligned with, as the author put it, Hollywood's ideological camp.
Right. And I guess maybe that's partly because of things that were happening in the real world, like 9/11. After that, the FBI played a big role in fighting terrorism, so maybe people started seeing them in a more positive light.
Yeah, it makes sense. Public perception influences how they're portrayed on screen.
But now, get this. The author suggests that we might be about to see another huge shift. They think the FBI could become the villain again, particularly after the 2024 elections.
Really? What makes them think that?
It's pretty interesting. They connect it to the FBI getting more and more involved in politics, like around elections.
Yeah, that has been a big topic lately. A lot of people are concerned about potential bias and overreach.
Exactly. And the piece suggests that if a new political administration comes in, they might position themselves as like the victim of this FBI overreach, And that could fuel this whole shift in how the FBI is shown in movies.
So instead of being the heroes, they're back to being the villains, maybe even manipulating elections behind the scenes.
Exactly. It'd be like a return to those classic, cynical views of the FBI. But, it's a good point. Like the author's saying that art, it reflects our anxieties about power, right? So if people are starting to distrust the FBI in real life, it makes sense that we'd see that reflected in our movies.
It's like that saying, art imitates life, right?
Yeah. And the piece ends with this question. It's kind of powerful. Would you rather see an evil FBI in fictional movies or operating unchecked in the real world?
Whoa, that's a tough one.
Right. It really makes you think about the whole relationship between art and reality. Like, does art just mirror what's happening around us, or does it actually influence how we see the world? And what about movies? How do they help us understand complex issues like government power, surveillance, all that stuff?
Those are some really big questions. And this piece, it definitely gives us a lot to think about.
It really does. Well, thanks for diving into this with me. This has been a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes you wonder what we'll see on screen next.
Definitely does. All right, see you all next time.
See ya.